Hello, patrons. So this is going to be Foxy Magic. This video is slightly delayed because the last couple of days have been crazy, including the unbirthday craziness, which I'm sure you guys have all seen today. I was going to record this morning and then I got inundated with love. So I'm in a big place of love right now, and from that space I'm going to do some fox work, some fox magic, and talk about some of the ways in which you can utilize fox energy to do spells. And I might actually do a spell with fox energy and hedgerow energy as part of next month as well, like a physical spell that you guys can sit and I'll show you and walk through it. But we're going to do theory for this one, and talk about some energies and some ideas and how you can bring that into a spell way of looking at it. Now, I've got some props, some tools, so it's not just me. We've got the little beautiful totem as usual, from Miss Beth Wildwood, Wild Tree Weaver, Wild Spirit Weaver. She's who she has on Etsy. She also does these. I might need another one of these at some point. So this is a beautiful naturally fallen antler that she paints herself. This is a naturally fallen fox bone, which she's wired on, and then she paints them. And it's absolutely gorgeous energy work. I really need another antler with some foxy goodness on it. I love her fox work. Seeing as it's my birthday, I might go soon. I might go check out, see if she's got anything, and maybe send her a message if she does. And the other thing I do have now, I do work with bones, and I do work with certain elements of physical parts of animals, as long as they've come from a reputable source. Now, I know a taxidermist who I've been talking to, and I know them through Etsy and got talking to them and stuff, and I know their ethical practices. So when they had a fox tail, I got one from them, and this is naturally gotten. It's not that they've been hunted, it's not that they've been trapped, it's that they naturally died out in the wild, and they have, so this is my foxtail. I should have just said this is attached, this is me. But I know some people struggle with that side of things. I also have a couple of skulls that are naturally fallen, and I have decorated them. So I'm going to talk to you about that kind of fox spirit work, I think, because I think that's important. And we're going to be talking about spirit work going forward in next month in Harvest and Hedgerow. We're going to be talking about spirits and connecting with spirits of the hedgerow and fetishes and bone work and things of that nature, and how I feel about it and what my perception is. I'm also going to be releasing very shortly the full course, Dirt and Bone, which goes into these things in some depth as well. That's going to be in the next few days. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I'm just putting the finishing touches to it, and then I'm going to ask Chris for her technical aid just to make sure it works, because me and technology. So when we're working with fox energy, and we're working with bones and totems and spirits, how does that impact who you are? How does working with these energies impact you? Because a lot of the energies of fox right now, I'm going to put some of this on me. This is my hedge-bound fox. I always try to say fox-bound hedge, but it's not. Hedge-bound fox witch spell oil. Just to get me into the foxy zone. For some laid over shield as well, sorry. And how does that impact with fox energy? What does it mean? Because a lot of people perceive foxes to be tricksters and evil even. Some of the Japanese mythology has them as quite evil, and yet soon fox spirits are considered very wise. The more tails they have, with 9 being the most, 9 tails Pokemon, best Pokemon, is considered the wisest of the Kitsune energies. But then they could also possess people, and like people were afraid of them. But you'd find them at shrines to the dead in Japan, and they were gateway keepers. And I feel very much that the fox energy is very liminal. It's very in between. You find them in woodland spaces naturally. You do find them in cities, obviously, because cities are man-made and foxes are intelligent and learned that they could get food that way. And I can tell you some fun stories about foxes in cities. maybe that's the way to do it. Okay, let's talk about my experience with my fox spirits and how I realized that fox energy was within me and for me and working with me. Foxes have come into my life many, many times. I have some very vivid memories of physical foxes in my life at different points. One of my earliest memories is being in a particular house that I was very young at the time. I must have been around um, 3 years old, maybe. And I remember my mum calling me to the window, come look, come look, come look. And it was fox cubs playing in the garden at the back of the garden where the trees were. And that's one of my very earliest memories, is seeing baby foxes playing in the garden. And I have a memory of when I was in Canterbury at university. One night I woke up in the middle of the night and I heard a woman screaming. And I was living in a city at this point, and I ran, without thinking, I ran downstairs with a baseball bat. We had a bat in our house for whatever reason, and I ran downstairs, slammed the door open with this baseball bat. Now, bearing in mind, like, it was 2 a.m, I woke up hearing this, and this was just a natural reaction to this. If there had been a whole gang of people outside attacking a woman, I don't know what I would have done, but I didn't think about it that way. I just went running on instinct. Slammed the door open, and there was a fox staring at me like, yeah, what you do, why do you have a bat, woman? What are you doing? And it's because foxes, when they make certain noises, they sound like screaming women. So it wasn't a screaming woman, which is good. There was no one being attacked. It was in fact a fox. At another point, I went out into the woods in Canterbury, and Canterbury is one of the places where I started really honing my witchcraft. I started really reading in depth. I'd been reading for a couple of years, but it was more of no, it wasn't reading. It was practicing. I started practicing in depth in Canterbury. And I went out into the woods with a friend to discover a witch temple that the local coven had been talking about. Now, we went the total wrong way, into the total wrong side of the woods, so we never found it. But we were walking through this path into the woods. It was absolutely gorgeous, and a fox just walked out in front of us and turned and looked at me, turned and looked away, and carried on walking. And it was one of those big affirmation moments. So those are very physical examples of when foxes have come into my life, and I've had some very visceral spiritual experiences too. If you're on the blog, you can read A Journey to the Underworld, an odd tale of foxes and moths. So foxes came to represent the Morrigan and me and our relationship. And for me, it was part of accepting who I was, because people would say, she's not associated, the goddess Morrigan isn't associated with foxes, you don't know what you're talking about. And later on, I actually found written evidence proof from the time that foxes were mentioned in regards to the Morrigan nighttime howlers and that sort of thing. And there was a myth, apart from myth, from the actual Celtic myth that mentioned foxes, which was really good. That helped back up what I was feeling. But it also was a lesson in personal gnosis, and not allowing anyone to tell you that just because this part of myth doesn't say this, that all your experience is invalid and your feelings are invalid. I'm not somebody who thinks you can just make every single fucking thing up and just say this is how it is and this is how it is and I made this up on some mirror. I believe in doing the work, doing the research, doing the grounding in the mythology, and learning what that meant to those people. I'm a historian, and learning what it means now. There's a difference, right? So I believe in doing that work, but I believe in personal gnosis and the evolution of spirituality. I don't believe that spirituality should be stagnant. Otherwise it becomes problematic. Why is it keep making that noise? Stop. I don't know if that will pick up on the video, or it'd just be me looking at it every time it makes that noise. So for me, foxes became associated with the Morrigan. But the thing is, their energy has this kind of trickster energy to them that I never believed for a minute. Oh, I'd always been very against fox hunting, by the way. I'd been an activist from about not an activist in burning things down, but an outspoken verbal activist. Went to marching with the RSPCA and had the RSPCA magazines and wanted to like volunteer, but they wouldn't let me because I wasn't old enough. And I did poetry about fox hunting and stuff. I remember it vividly because it was talking about a fox trying to get away from the hunt, and they were nearly out, nearly out, nearly out. And I remember that the last line was, and then everything goes black. And like, had a really strong effect on everybody at the time. Everyone was like, and I thought I'd be very old when I wrote that initially. So that's something else. But going back to the more organic work, I don't feel that tricksters are something to be feared, or I just feel that it's a shift in perspective. I feel like it's shape shifting and changing form, changing the eyes of the mask you look through, if you like, to give an analogy of it, and to understand life from a very different viewpoint, from a very different perspective. That's why I did the conduiting session this month, for looking through foxy eyes. Foxy eyes. I actually think foxes are intelligent, playful. Cunning I associate with the word cunning folk. To know, kuna means to know from the ancient Nordic. And so cunning as a descriptor has kind of got warped over time. And fox actually represents something of knowledge, like the forgotten knowledge, the forgotten ways. Our ancestors knew, and the wisdom that they took for granted, that we have ignored or lost over like oracular recording of history. So we've lost some of these things, or that we've just gotten into a state of hubris, so we think we know better, and what we know now is better than any information that could have come before at any point. It's a weird thing that happens, that some people venerate the knowledge of the ancients like that's the only thing that matters, and some people honor the wisdom now like this is the only thing that matters. And it's like, why can't there be wisdom in both? So there's that. But fox energy for me has really been kind of a mirror to who I am. Playful. Fox energy can be a little bit naughty, a little bit mysterious, a little bit playful, and like to poke things a little bit and see what happens. There is definitely like sometimes a need to isolate versus sometimes be social. There's kind of a need for balance within these things, and fox energy really is what you make it to be. I mean, a lot of people will say you can use it for invisibility, which you can, and I think you can lead it through the hedgeways and be guided through journeys of liminal space and learn the safe paths, because that's what foxes do. They knew the safe ways through the woods, and could evade hunters really well because they knew all the safe paths to tread and quickly and nimbly through the night. They have an energy of the magician to me. The foxes kind of are in charge of their own destiny vibe, and that's kind of like an archetypal, like moving the fox energy into an archetypal, almost a tarot kind of vibe of magician, like controlling your own destiny and choosing for yourself. There's an interesting line in the Animal Spirit Guide by the Wild Unknown that says foxes do not do well when they are forced into situations where they feel they cannot be truthful. Like when they feel they must protect themselves, run and hide. Foxes don't do very well in those scenarios. They'll survive, but they don't like it. And I think that that's really true too. So what can we do when we are looking at spell work to do with fox spirit and energies and connection? We can definitely create a connection to ourselves in the liminal spaces. We can think about hedgerows. We can think about what that meant to witches of old and to us today. Does it still have an impact on us? Does that impact depend on where in the world we live? If we don't live anywhere where there's any hedgerows, it's not going to have an impact. It's just not going to. So sometimes we have to think outside the box a little bit, which we like to do because flexiness. So what are the liminal spaces where you live? And then look at connecting to the land in which you live and the environment by which you're surrounded. Is there a tree line? Is there a particular crossroads? Is there places that feel liminal to you? What does that mean to you? And the importance and the emphasis really is on independence with fox energy. I think you can definitely look at the kind of shadow step protective thing, like getting your energy to shift a little bit. But for me, it really is about pride of self. So that's going to be it for this particular video. We're going to have a more visceral, physical, foxy spell work coming up, which I will try and figure out because I can't do that on webcam. But I hope you guys enjoyed this little insert into Fox energy. Many blessings.